The Philippines is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world, yet it is constantly under threat from human intrusion. Faced with one of the highest rates of deforestation in the region, government has established several national parks within the country to boost biodiversity conservation. This approach, however, has constantly put government and indigenous communities at odds.
Sa pag-national park, naay mga kabingkil gamay sa gobyerno, pero sa tungod sa pagpakigbisog namo, amo ra gid siyang na sitol o na harmonize kay girespeto na ang katungod sa tribo.
Kay gani pa kaniadto nga og national park pa dili epektibo para kanako. Kay dili naman paghisgutan namo diya sa among lumadnon nga paghisgot-hisgot. Ang tan-aw sa among katribo wala nami katungod. So ingon ana ang naitabo sa amo karon nga giila ang ICCA, girespeto ang among katungod sa tribo, mas epektibo kaayo.
Indigenous Community Conserved Territories and Areas, or ICCA, is an area within ancestral domains or lands that is identified, protected, conserved, and sustainably used by indigenous cultural communities and indigenous peoples, pursuant to their indigenous knowledge systems and practices, and in accordance with customary laws and other effective means since time immemorial.
There's an indigenous practice system that's built around conservation in biodiversity areas. And the facts speak for themselves when you look at it. If you look at the old growth forest of the Philippines, there's a strong correlation with areas which are inhabited by indigenous peoples and the existence of that old growth forest. So here's a real win-win situation. If you have a model which targets indigenous people, you're effectively targeting the marginalized and the poor.
Our initiatives on the ICCA would be a compliance to our commitment to the UNCBD and the Nagoya Protocol. With an ICCA, we are able to reinforce our commitment of recognizing our communities as the owners of these preserved areas.
The institutionalization of ICCAs will help the country reach its targets under the Sustainable Development Goals, Convention on Biological Diversity's Aichi targets, Philippine Development Plan, and Philippine Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. Learning from the Sendong experience, Cagayan de Oro is working closely with IP communities in preserving the forests of Mount Calatungan in a Payment for Ecosystem Services Scheme, or PES. PES creates an arrangement where resource managers such as indigenous peoples are supported financially by the beneficiaries of environmental services, including water and mitigation of flooding and other natural disasters.
When PES was launched in 2014, the reception of many of the stakeholders was really good because we just undergone the Sendong experience where many of the barangays here were flooded because of the typhoon. And when it was presented as an option where maybe we can prevent another Sendong in the future, it was well received. And the idea was not difficult to explain that, the Talaandig tribe, where the watershed of Cagayan de Oro is located, would be planting the trees and rehabilitate the forest.
Biodiversity conservation remains a critical arena in mitigating climate change and its adverse impacts. It requires the concerted efforts of a broad range of sectors, as well as human and capital resources. Effective biodiversity conservation and forest management go hand in hand with a favorable policy environment for indigenous community involvement. At the moment, indigenous peoples from across the country are advocating for the passage of the ICCA bill.
Og sa Senado ako untang gipangandoy nga unta ang ICCA bill mupasa na pod sa Senado para dili kawang uni ang mong pagpanalipod o pakigbisog na mo diya sa among lugar nga among gipanalipdan.